Good day, everybody. How's it going out there? Well, today is kind of a long one, and I had to put off posting this one multiple times due to more information coming out and more details coming out, basically on a daily basis. I did write an article for this one, so if you want to do a quick read, as always, in the description below for that. But if you're here to listen instead, then I will present what has been found out here for this particular situation. Now, it is important to know that conventions are very difficult to run. It takes a team effort, and it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of consideration, and a lot of furries work really hard for these events. There are people behind the curtain trying to get the show to go on. And in the recent times, it's been really difficult. Like, obviously, with COVID-19, as we've covered here and things like that, we've had shutdowns of conventions, and conventions are trying to start back up. And given that COVID really isn't like done, like it's never gonna, like, unfortunately, we're probably gonna reach an endemic phase, and it's never gonna fully go away. So people will have to probably get, shots and updated shots in order to protect and against the worst symptoms of the disease. We find ourselves in a situation where things are contentious. There are some people who don't think that the show should go on. But because, as I said, it takes a team, and also there are people outside the fandom that have to deal with this kind of stuff too. Hotels that have contracts with the furries that say the show must go on. You must bring in our hotel guests to your event, and you've rented out the space. So either you're paying for it and not having things. So there's contention and leverage and things like that influence people to go on, even if it may not be the best time to do so. So obviously that makes it hard to maintain volunteers. If there's a lot of back and forth, there's a lot of surveys that are handed out. In the case of Furry Equinox, they've been handing out a bunch of surveys. But I say all of this because it's difficult for just one furry convention, but run by one staff, to get the ball rolling again. And it can be tricky, it can be hard, and obviously, we're not going to have a full recovery of the amount of attendees that we had before the coronavirus. That being said, the story today covers basically a convention for-profit LLC that had that times 7, times 5 furry conventions and 2 brony conventions. So take all that stress, all that stuff I just talked about, and multiply it by that amount. And you get to see why this fallout is happening with this Corgi LLC company. So for those of you not familiar, Corgi LLC is a LLC company, for-profit, one of the first for-profit furry organizations that started to grow and tried to create basically a franchise of conventions spattered throughout the country, and 2 brony conventions and 5 furry conventions. And and we'll go over the ones that they basically had under their wings, so that you'll know who they control. And because I don't remember them off the top of my head, I believe it was Golden State Fur Con, Aquatifur, Denver, Painted City Fur Con, and it was the 5th one. I can't remember the 5th one. Damn. I tried, but anyways, we'll get to the Denver. Yeah, I did that one. Anyways, dang it, I failed the quiz show. It's my job. Anyways, it all started with when the rumbling started happening. It all came out in an email, and that email went out to the dealers, people that basically they have the Corgi LLC has a dealer's den email that they send, and so they can send information to the dealers about convention things and stuff like that. And a strange email showed up back in February, early February, indicating that there was some concerns by somebody in the staff, clearly. So this unsolicited email got sent out without being checked over. Obviously, the person sent it in duress because they had heard a rumor that they were very concerned for their dealers. And that was, please dealers, if you have not already paid for Denver, do not pay now. Our con owner is planning to steal money from the Evan Bright sales, file for bankruptcy, and bail. Please, if you have not already paid, don't start. If you have paid, the best I can offer you is this guide on to ask Evan Bright for your money back. And they sent some links. I'm not sure who it was who sent this out. I think they admitted it on Twitter and then they removed themselves, but I can't remember the name of the person. I wish there was more I could do other than send this email out. I'm not sure I'll have a chance to send another email. I'm not even sure I'll have access to this after today. I'm incredibly sorry and I wish I wasn't pressured to send out the Denver acceptance early. I had no idea it would be to make money for personal issues. Again, I'm so sorry. Do not send any money to Corgi Events. So, obviously, it didn't take long for that email to remain within just the people who received it. Obviously, dealers went to Twitter going, what's all this about? What is going on here? And there were rumors abound about the convention chair owner, who is known as Corey Treble Woods, and basically trying to figure out what he was doing, or basically. Now, if Corey Treble Woods sounds familiar, we did a video on the particular issue in a lawsuit that occurred with this individual before, dealing with Lemon Brat versus themselves. That was settled out of court, which I never did a follow-up video on, but somebody asked in the comment section of that video that you can click up there in the description above, did Corgi end up getting, what happened with that court lawsuit between Lemon Brat and Corgi? And the answer is that it was settled out of court. The way it was settled was not disclosed. But in essence, that was there's a previous thing, right? But obviously, people make mistakes. Maybe one point doesn't lead to a pattern. But of course, that was brought up during this whole thing too, and people, started talking and rumor sharing. And Corgi LLC obviously wanted to respond, and in response, they sent out this letter on the 9th, the day after that email went out. And it said, "Good evening, all Corgi event attendees, dealers, artists, and staff. I wanted to send a letter here to let you know that the prior email from us regarding anything involving anything monetary is 100% inaccurate." When I read that out loud, I realized, didn't proofread this. They obviously wanted to get it out quick. Prior email from us regarding anything involving anything monetary is 100% inaccurate, invalid, and untrue. We here at Corgi Events are in no shape or form filing bankruptcy, stealing money from the company, and we continue. Once again, this was not proofread. We here at Corgi LLC are in no shape or form filing for bankruptcy or stealing money from the company. Period. We are continuing to have conversations for a minimum. We are continuing to have conventions for a minimum via our contracts for the next 3 years. And that could have been reworded to be convention. We are continuing to have our conventions for the next 3 years via our contracts without any parentheses. Yeah, as you can tell, they sent this into rest. I'm highlighting that a little bit. I want to apologize to anyone who felt distressed, frightened, concerned, or apprehensive over any emails, Telegram message, Twitter posts, Discord messages, or otherwise that has been said and or shared. That's also a little clunky. There are rumors going around that I owe employees upwards of $80K, $800,000. That is grossly untrue and a major exaggeration of a minor misunderstanding. And when I originally read this letter, that sentence, I was like, which is it? Like, and that's one of those kind of things where it's like it's untrue and there's a minor misunderstanding, right? If something is entirely untrue, you're saying 100% of it is false, right? But then you say it's a minor misunderstanding, and it's an exaggeration of that minor misunderstanding. And it's like, then that means that you're saying at the second sentence that there's some element of truth, and then you're saying in the first part that it's entirely untrue, right? So once again, he's like, that's, people are going to get sus about that, right? So, once again, the sentence was, there are rumors going around that I owe employees upwards of $80K. This is grossly untrue and a major exaggeration of a minor misunderstanding. Well, yeah. Anyways, we here at Corgi LLC put our attendants, dealers, artists, and staff's comfort above our own. Regarding the current situation, there was a recent employee who was released from the company who held the position of Corgi LLC operator of events. Due to this, there was some backlash due to the decision. This decision was not out of spite and is not related to any previous actions or decisions that the individual has made. If you have any comments, questions, or feel free to email treble@corgievents.com. If for any reason this uncertainty has caused you any distrust, unrest, or disbelief, and you'd like to either transfer or refund your dealer den table assist badge, please email me refunds, and we will trade and refund. Thank you for understanding. So, and that's written by Treble himself. So it must be noted here, I did actually miss an item here. Before, there's actually a big background about what happened before this email was sent out. And it is, you can see it on the in the article in the description below. And basically, one of his staff, Boiler Roo, goes over exactly sort of what happened, and that was Koi, who is a person who was basically one of the upper staff people and somebody that Treble relied on a lot, even by his own admission. Basically, he let them go after Sin City Murcon. That was the fifth one, Sin City Murcon. I didn't remember the fifth one because that one's up in the air. And it was because this was Sin City Murcon's first year. And it didn't go really well. There was a lot of there was a lot of money issues. It sounds like there was a lot of logistic issues. The hotel was kind of sus, and it didn't. I don't think it went too well for the first year, as we're going to go over a little bit later. So basically, after that letter was released and say that's fine, nothing to see here. Another person had found what was called a tax warrant on Corgi Treble Wood, and basically indicated that he owed over $80K in delinquent taxes. As was noted by Boozy Badger, what this can tell you is that on this date that they were sent this note, it's like they may be owing for the government, and maybe he missed the filing. It's really, you can't really make a discerning thing about this, but obviously, it raises questions and raises flags. Once again, it's like this is showing that there is some issues here. There might be some monetary issues, and then people are going to be like, why didn't you come clean with the fact that you had that issue on the side? Come clean with that. where you're trying to hide it and things like that. So, furries get suspicious about that kind of stuff, and so, even though, it's one of those things where it's like you cannot discern. One of the things that, Boozy notes is that, even though you can't really discern that it means that he was malfeasance in that, if he has personal tax issues and he's the sole proprietor of the company, that can be problematic because he can have that company lost should the tax man go, you know what, we're about to liquidize you a little bit, right? So it's something you got to be concerned about. And obviously, even as that was going on, the fallout of staff started to occur as well. Here we see 3 particular staff members, Bad Girl, Skunk, Boileroo, just Boiler, and Bat Boy Basil. Basically, all 3 of them basically decided to basically pack up their bags, or some of them were let go involuntarily. Bad Girl says, I hosted and maintained the Corgi events websites. I slaved my life away at times, fixing the mess, and was promised pay for my services, but never saw a cent. So I pulled out and shut the servers down. Nobody is doing this out of spite. It's a literal money pit ran by greed. Skunk, or just Boileroo says, just a quick announcement. This is done with a heavy heart, but as of tonight, Corgi Events and I will be parting ways. I am no longer chair for Denver Convention, and I no longer am the creative member board for all 5 Corgi Cons. I wish them nothing but success in the future. Basil, I am no longer creative director for Corgi Events LLC. The choice was made for us. Both my partner and I were removed from all cons and being friends with the person fired. We were both offline, even with doing/saying nothing. We were let go with no warning. So clearly, there's a staff upending going on. And basically, as that started to go in, people were talking and people were probably asking for refunds behind the scenes, and things start to get crazy, right? Obviously, it was basically, it seems like the treble decided to try to step down. And this is where you have the 2 Brony conventions that Corgi LLC runs being offered and off-ended to one Michelle and Charlie. As you can see in this letter, basically they had relieved their control over Ponyville Cider Fest and Winnie City Pony Con. Basically, they have now ownership of that, and they indicate in the letter here that they will basically take that over with a non-profit organization that they wish to create for themselves. And as for the furry conventions, the letter here, and if you want to read that whole letter, you can pause it. I know I try to do this so that people can do that. And there's a link. There's also a thing in the link if you need to zoom in a little bit more. This letter is also available in that other article, and you can read this also on the by pausing. I'm not going to read through the whole letter. It's pretty long. I'm just going to give you the gist of sort of what's being talked about. So in this second letter, these are for the 5 furry conventions, and they note here that basically the treble is being removed as the chair and head of Corgi LLC, and Corgi LLC is basically liquidizing or basically relinquishing command over the 5 furry conventions, and that they are basically, what we see here is they basically list that they'll be getting ownership of Golden State Fur Con, Painted Desert Fur Con, Aquatifur, and Denver. But they basically indicate here that Sin City Mercon is in a questionable state. So basically, because it was its premiere year, and they didn't really like all this stress and all this anger and all this anguish was happening at Sin City MurCon a lot because literally Painted City FurCon, this organization of furries ran that one a month prior to it. They ran it at the beginning of January, and they ran Sin City MurCon in February, right? And a lot of the staff is shared, right? So you literally have the same staff that was running a convention, in Arizona, now running one in Sin City, and it's travel and stress and trying to run the convention, and many furries can attest that running one convention is stressful enough. Running 5 or running 2 within 2 months of each other, right? Heck, going to 2 conventions as a guest is twice in 2 months can be quite stressful. So doing this, running the things, obviously there's a lot of stress and also financial hardship when it comes to, making sure that the liquid's flowing and making sure that, the people who get paid. Especially when you're running as a for-profit, it gives that much more difficult asset of people who volunteer for your convention are going to want to be paid because they're working, right? And so it makes it a little bit more precarious to ask people to volunteer for a t-shirt when you're presenting yourself as a for-profit. Now, it must be noted that for-profit and not-for-profit is kind of a misnomer. Just because something is a not-for-profit doesn't mean that particular staff members are not getting paid, right? A person can run a not-for-profit and personally make money off of it. The NRA, for instance, is a not-for-profit organization, and recently, one of the vice presidents or the president of the NRA basically got in a lot of trouble because they were funneling money to buy a mansion for themselves and things like that. So obviously there are supposed to be checks and balances in places to make sure that not-for-profits don't, go against what they're supposed to be. But some states turn more of a blind eye to others when it comes to wealth. Big surprise there. But it's one of those things where, just because something's a not-for-profit doesn't mean that, people on the upper staff might be making some money off of it. But here's the thing. What people interpret, how people interpret those things is important. And when you hear for-profit, obviously people in the staff are going to want to get paid. As was noted in that one Twitter tweet earlier by the bad girl, she was like, no, I want, I didn't get paid and all this is happening and it doesn't seem like I'm going to get paid, so I'm frustrated and I'm, basically, wage theft. She was expecting to get paid, she didn't get paid. Or in the words of Trevor from Grand Theft Auto 5, I wanted a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. And then he kind of got a little angry. So then I kind of got a little angry. It's one of those things. Grand Theft Auto 5, I played it recently. It's interesting. It was a game from 2013, but it talked about wage theft. Wage theft was its theme. Basically, your characters, the 3 characters you play are trying to, make their way, but they're never getting paid for the jobs that they do, even as extreme as they are. But anyways, and it's kind of a theme in modern things. It's and it's interesting that a lot of people in the furry fandom deal with that situation where it's hard to get clients to pay you for things, and you have that sort of larceny, sort of wage theft thing go on within the furry fandom. But it's a common, unfortunately more common than people like to let on, thing that happens in even legitimate businesses, right? So here we have that letter that says that they're basically doing that. Now, I must make a caveat note here that despite Corgi LLC apparently liquidizing and making it so that Corgi, the treble Corey Treble Woods is no longer going to be active or the front man for any of these conventions, a lot of people who are ex-staff of some of these conventions, particularly Denver, are concerned that this is just a smoke and mirrors tactic, that this new organization that will be taking over for the furry conventions, which, by the way, they do have a name, and that is AEIOU. And I remember the acronym because it's obviously where they got that from, but I can't remember the name. And by the way, when frickin' that, I've talked about this before, when talking about OWU and that Oklahoma convention thing, and you can watch that video up there, I went on a rant about people who make an acronym and then make the words to try to fit into the acronym because it's obvious to tell because like the words don't make sense when you put them in order. Like it was like what was the OWU meant? Anthro West Open Organization or Anthro Western Open Organization. I think they confused West and Western, like, and they didn't have a consistent thing, and they obviously just made up the name after they said, we got a color nation organization, OWU. Well, what should OWU stand for, right? Well, Anthro Western, yeah. And then they fixed it when I sort of mocked them for it. So at least they pay attention. So anyways, what is it here? We have Corgi LLC, right? We have they gave it to, where the hell is the name? Anthro Events Incorporated Organization United. You see how redundant that is? Anthropomorphic, that's fine. Events, okay. Incorporated, all right. Organization, redundant. You just said incorporated. United, well, you're an organization, so I better hope that you're united, right? Just why? AEIOU, just why? Like those three words are just redundant. They were obviously crammed in there to make it work with the acronym. You know, furries, it's like we want to be creative with our names. OWU, open organization, but we don't allow people to comment on our Twitter. We're open, but you may only comment if we want you to. That's how open we are. Anyways, yeah, so that's basically it for that. Now, as I was saying, there was concerns that this AEIOU, smoke and mirrors, by individuals out in Denver, particularly at some of the ex-staff members, Boiler Root particularly, and Bad Girl. Those two individuals who I read the tweets of earlier have certainly said that they are concerned of this whole smoke and mirrors thing, that Treble or Corey Woods will be, manipulating things behind the scenes. So they kind of are going about their own ways of trying to, keep things, keep people from going, everything's fine now. Look, they fixed it. They're trying to keep people wary that things might not be as fixed as those letters claim that they are. And when, so they're both kind of going about it their own ways. Boileroo created a organization called BARC, B-A-R-C. I don't know what the name for that one is, but since it's C, it's probably Colorado. But so obviously another acronym that's kind of like silly, and hopefully that's better. I don't know what the name of it is. I don't know what the full wordage of BARC is, but he basically wants to use that organization in order to try to convince AEIOU to give up Denver from that, because Denver is an important con to a lot of furries. It is the convention that Ash Coyote recorded her documentary for the fandom in. So obviously having that convention under threat was, kind of an importance to her as a local. And it's an important convention for a lot of furries. It's actually, and this is where the trickiness kind of comes into play when it comes to negotiations, because Denver is a large furry convention. It is the largest one that the used to be Corgi LLCs, right? So and it's now the largest one that AEIOU has control over. So if AEIOU says they intend to become a nonprofit, and so in that case, like, it might be, Boiler Room might be able to take that convention and take it for themselves. I just realized I might have flubbed some genders in this thing. I'll have to double check the video, and I'll be sure to fix any of that. So basically, at the end of the whole thing, they want to take that one. So my suggestion would be, if they are going to do things in the negotiation room, I would suggest that they work out a deal with AEIOU that is not hostile, right? That they try to negotiate it where it's like, we will take AEIOU, we will take Denver from AEIOU and incorporate it into BARC to be our own convention, but we will help support AEIOU in their endeavors, and we'll pick like one of the largest fur cons, the second largest fur con that they have, which is Painted City Fur Con, which is right across the border, right? It's in Arizona. It's not too far away from Denver. So basically, it's one state away, right? It's within the four corner states. Offer to help those conventions, right? Offer to basically assist them in doing that, because I think right now there's a lot of bad blood, right? And this is one of the comments I made in the article there, that's in the description. There is a lot of contention right now between those two organizations. There's a contention between the old management and the old guard, but also the more localized to Denver community. So like there's the Colorado furry community, and then there is the organization of Corgi LLC that had closer connections with the LLC community. I think Corey Woods is mostly from Wisconsin, right? So maybe he has a bunch of friends over there, and he brought in a bunch of people from the Denver thing to assist in the other conventions. So right now there's kind of this rift between the two organizations. So the only way to derive peace and to make sure that the conventions themselves are settled is to try to, in spite of everything, turn things around so that the mismanagement and the misdeeds are dealt with in a way that is helpful and not in spite or revenge, right? You worry about the fans and you worry about their things. So if, BARC wants to come in as a nonprofit organization, take over Denver and only Denver, and, say we will assist AEIOU in trying to promote, its second largest convention, which is Painted Desert Fur Con. We will help promote that one, so that way that people can see there's no bad blood. We'll make these kind of sister conventions between Denver and Painted City Fur Con, and or Painted Desert Fur Con. I keep saying city. So we'll kind of do that, and that way people outside can see, hey, look, they're trying to move past this mismanagement by the person who used to be in charge, and trying to move forward with something, and it will help steady people's concerns and things like that. And I think it'll also help resolve some of the bad blood that has occurred over this falling out. This is probably one of the biggest falling outs, and this is why this video is so long, and I thank you for sitting through the whole dang thing. My voice is tired. You're probably tired. So I thank you very much for watching. Kick the like, kick the subscribe button, kick a comment in the comment section. What do you think about the whole falling out of Corgi LLC? What do you think the future for those conventions out there in the West? What do you think that? Do you think that they'll come through? Do you think that there'll still be another, leg to drop, another thing to come, or anything else? So thank you guys very much for watching, and we will see you next time, and we'll see you then.